Friday night. As many of you well aware, the greatest passed away, Muhammad Ali. We did a lot of reflecting yesterday, but right now I want to talk with Tim Shanahan. He's the author of a book called Running with the Champ, and he's been a close and trusted friend of Muhammad Ali and the family for nearly 40 years, Tim, and obviously sad news when you hear of the passing of someone that you're that close to, but obviously the last couple of days has been filled with celebration of his life, which has got to be nice for someone who knows him so well.
That's true, and it's been 41 years, and there hasn't been a day that went by that I wasn't proud and privileged and honored to be his friend. I thought about it every day, actually. And yes, I just want to mention that Layla Ali, Muhammad's daughter, wanted me to tell everybody that their father is at peace now. He didn't suffer. He never was in pain. And now it's time not to be sad, but to celebrate his life, and that's what we're going to do. I'm flying in on Thursday, and there's going to be a private viewing of the body for the family, which I'll be at. And then the next morning, 9 a.m. on Friday, there's going to be a procession down Muhammad Ali Boulevard, and it's going to go very slow, Layla said, because they want everybody to participate. There are going to be a lot of Muhammad's friends, family there, including Will Smith, who will be one of the pallbearers. And then it's going to go to the UN Center downtown Louisville, where the eulogy will be read by Billy Crystal and Bill Clinton.
Wow, unbelievable. And how did you come across meeting Muhammad? Where did your relationship start with him that you just mentioned, 41 years of your life?
Now, Mike, you're probably thinking, how did a Catholic Irish white boy from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, befriend this black Muslim who is the most famous face on the planet? And Muhammad had a simple explanation. White boy, you had to be black in your previous life. He said, you're like me. You're serious when you have to be, but then you act a fool like me. He said, remember, a wise man can always act a fool, but a fool can never act a wise man. He said, what nationality are you? I said, I'm black Irish. So you're a trigger, just like me. He used trigger as a code name instead of the N-word.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I'm a trigger, just like you. And he goes, after that, he would introduce me and he'd say, this guy looks white, doesn't he? He's been passing for years. This is Tim Shanahan. He's my cousin. So that's how he introduced me for the next 2 or 3 years.
Tim Shanahan is with us. He's the author of the book, Running with the Champ. It's his 40-year friendship with Muhammad Ali. And I think our sports listeners out there know him as the champ and his talent, but you can speak more on his generosity and his legacy out of the ring, the guy that he became outside of the sports world.
Right, and I know that everybody's thinking back in the 60s when he was young and brash, 21, 22-year-old, and I just want to comment on that. He always thought he was going to be famous. At 11, 12, 13 years old, he would lay on his grass in front of his house and look up at the stars, and he would talk to God. He knew God was behind those stars, and he would say, God, what do you want from me in my life? Am I going to be famous? What do you want me to do to serve you? And every night he said that, and I said, well, what happened? And he goes, he never answered. And I said, well, if God's going to answer anybody, he's going to be you. And so he always knew that he was going to be famous, and he wanted to use the fame the best way he could. So when he heard Elijah Muhammad talk about being proud blacks and to aspire to be proud of your black heritage and get the white man out of your life, and he said, that's a good way of becoming famous, is if I can be a leader of the young black people in the world and become a Muslim. So that's what he did, and he did it mainly to be famous. I mean, it's hard to say, but he knew why he was doing it. He wanted to become famous and then use his fame to help as many people as he could in the world that needed his help. He said that often. So as soon as he became famous and he knew that he had the power, he was always seeking wisdom. He said, I'm searching for wisdom and truth, because I want to know how to use this fame the best way I can. And at that time, he was evolving into a humanitarian in where he loves all people. He loves all races, all religions, all nationalities, and he really doesn't see color when he meets people. And that was the same with me. Now, in the private life, when you're personally with him, it never comes up. He never talked about religion. He never talked about the Muslim religion or my religion. I'm Catholic. And it never came up. He just wanted to be your friend and have fun. That's basically how he looked at life. And he said, be serious when you have to be, but he wanted to be your friend and have fun.
Tim, what was Muhammad like, the boxer, the guy who was in training, the guy who was getting ready for a prize fight?
You know, the way he promoted the fight is because he was. That's what I'm just getting at. He loves all people. He's a loving person, and he had to motivate himself for a fight because he really wasn't a fighter. He was a very skillful athlete, but he wasn't really the mean fighter that wanted to kill everybody that he came into the ring with. So he had to motivate himself for the fight to cut down that person, to insult him, to make him angry so that he could be angry at him. So by the time the fight came around, they were both angry at each other, so he could use his skills to beat him. But the point that he always made to me, he said, I do that because I'm promoting a fight, and the other fighter should know that, and he should be in on it. But I know one thing, that 50% of the people will come to see me win, and the other 50% will come to see me lose. But I want them all to come to the fight.
Tim Shanahan's with us. My 40-year relationship with Muhammad Ali. Running with the Champ is the book. In 2010, I interviewed Angelo Dundee, and we re-aired that yesterday. And in that interview, he said every time he was going into a fight that he thought he was going to a party. And it sounds like that kind of lends to what you're saying. And I wonder the mindset of Muhammad, that after many years after his time in the ring, when obviously people saw him with the Parkinson's and thought, woe is him or whatever, he never really thought like that, is the idea that I get from listening to a lot of interviews on this. He never felt pity on himself. Is that accurate?
Very accurate. But by the way, I love Angelo Dundee. There wasn't a better person for Muhammad to be his trainer. They loved each other. It was a beautiful relationship. I loved Angelo. And yes, he handled the reason that his family and friends handled his Parkinson's so well is because he did. He handled it with dignity. Any setback that he ever had in life, he faced it with a practical knowledge that he's going to fight it. It is a challenge for him. So when he got Parkinson's, the doctor said he had Parkinson's and he had 10 years to live, and he said, well, God gave me Parkinson's so I could shut up and become more spiritual. So every day God is going to test me, and I'm going to pass that test every day. In 2006, I called him. I said, Muhammad, how are you really feeling? You got Parkinson's. It's 10 years later. He said, remember in 1986, the UCLA doctors told me I had Parkinson's and I had 10 years to live? Well, I'm still in the fight, and I shocked the world again. And he said, I'm gonna go the distance, white boy, and I'm going to prove it. So anyway, that's how he perceived it, and always a challenge to him, and saying every day he wakes up and he's tested by God, and he passed that test.
Yeah, what was you mentioned his daughter said that he went away peaceful, there was no pain. You mentioned also that you were friends with the family and his generosity and everything. What was he like with his family?
Oh, and I asked him once, Muhammad, what do you want for your legacy? And he said, my children. Now, I was thinking about fighting, of course, and he always told me that he used boxing to be famous. He really didn't like to be a boxer. He didn't want to be a boxer. He wanted to be Elvis. When he was 13, 14. When he was 15, he saw Elvis on TV. He said, I wanted to be Elvis when I saw him. He said, he just looks good. He gets up on the stage, wiggles his hip, and the girls scream. I have to go 15 rounds, get bloody, puffy, and I come out of the ring, and no girl wants to kiss me after that. So all in his life, he said, if I came back in another life, I want to be Elvis. But as far as his belief in no, I forgot the question about his generosity, right, with the family.
Well, his family, right?
Yeah. So his legacy was his daughters and in his children. And then I said, well, what about how do you want to be thought of when you're gone? I mean, the world's going to remember you for years. I mean, you're going to be immortal when you die. How do you want to be remembered? He said, I want to be remembered as someone who tried his best to be the best father, to be the best husband, to be the best son, to be the best brother, and to be the best friend. And I wouldn't even mind it if they forgot how pretty I was. That was his, and that was the truth. I mean, he said that from the heart, and really that was his goal in life, to be a good father, brother, husband, son, friend.
Tim Shanahan's with us. Running with the Champ is the book. Can you speak also on, in the book, it talks about the disappointment he had when he faced Leon Spinks in 1978, and everybody remembers all these great victories. And then, towards the end of his career, where a lot of people said maybe he just held on too long, but 78 was really an interesting time for him.
Yeah, he was one of the regrets. He has when you ask him, I have no regrets, but he had two major regrets. But the third one would be the Spinks fight, because he didn't train hard enough, and he took it lightly, and he knew that this kid only had 8 fights, and he was a light heavyweight, and it was going to be a piece of cake, and he didn't train hard. And after that fight,
and he admitted that. He admitted that.
Yes, yeah. After the fight, he cried in the locker room, and the fact is that whenever this happens, he disappoints his fans. He never wants to disappoint his fans, and he really did at that time. So, of course, the next fight, he trained really hard and got prepared for it to fight in New Orleans. But as far as his losses, whenever he lost, he said, well, everybody loses sometime. You have to learn how to take the loss and learn from it. And he always did. He always credited the opponent, never downgraded him after the fight if he lost. He always gave them credit and praised them and said that they were a great fighter and he deserved to lose. Whatever he said, he always put up, even Frazier.
Yeah.
They all did. So he handled his losses with dignity, too. So whenever he talked about disappointments or challenges, he said that's God working with me. He's challenging me. He wants me to succeed. And he wants me to overcome the challenges and work for him. And that's how he viewed life. Actually, he thinks life. God has a tabulation on each individual. On one side is all good deeds that you do in life, and the other all the bad deeds you do in life. He said, when I die, I want to make sure I have more good deeds than bad deeds.
Tim Shanahan, Running with the Champ, his 40-year relationship with Muhammad Ali. Tim, before we let you run, is there anything for the listeners that you'd like to add that maybe we didn't get to touch on here? I know you've been very busy talking about your time with Muhammad, but I want to give you that opportunity.
Okay. On Tuesday, Layla was contacted by the family and said, round up the family and come into Phoenix because this is serious and it doesn't look like your dad's going to make it. So she rounded up all the kids. They were sitting around his bedside on Friday, and at 9:10, he died at 9:10. And Hana Ali is Muhammad's special daughter. They have a special relationship because she looks so much like him. He said, she looks like me when she was born, and she's cut from the same cookie sheet, same personality, same looks, same attitudes, same belief. They're people. They love people. But anyway, she's at the bedside holding his hand, and she leans over, whispers in his ear, Daddy, it's okay for you to leave us now. We'll be okay. We love you. And they took him off. And his heart kept beating for 30 minutes. And I said, don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion.
Unbelievable stuff. Tim, we know very emotional, and we do respect that, and we want to give you that opportunity to take some time, and we do appreciate, Tim, you sharing that story with our listeners here today. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. Tim Shanahan, everybody, a close friend of Muhammad Ali, and you just heard there, he was just so emotional, and a sad story as he loses his friend of 40 years and the family. We do appreciate him for sharing that story with us. The book is Running with the Champ, his 40-year relationship with Muhammad Ali.